Hi and welcome to the Financial Fox TV show. It's Steph here, and today is another episode about innovation, and we will be discussing how new technologies can help to combat the billion-dollar counterfeiting market. So my guest is James Caldwell. He is a professor of computer science at the University of Wyoming, and he's also co-director of the IOHK Wyoming Advanced Blockchain Lab. He was a speaker at the Cardano Virtual Summit earlier on last month, where he presented the Wyoming Blockchain Lab, its mission, and also the work that is undergoing with IOHK on software and hardware cryptography, but also on security and authentication. So just to give you a little bit of background, earlier on this year, IOHK donated $5,000 in ADA to the Blockchain Lab, and Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson stated that the University of Wyoming represents a better return on investment for IOHK than any other big US name university, such as Harvard or Cornell or MIT. So let me connect with James so we can find out more about the lab, the research, and also the use cases teams are working on with IOHK, and mainly how blockchain can help to fight counterfeits. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine. So where are you at the moment?
I'm in my office at the University of Wyoming for the first time since March.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's really a pleasure to have you on the show today. First of all, maybe can you give us some background on the Wyoming Advanced Blockchain Lab, when and how the project started, and also the partnership with IOHK and Cardano?
I guess it goes back a little bit further. It's part of the state of Wyoming. The legislature allocated funding for blockchain research and education at the University of Wyoming. And that's been about 2 years ago that happened. And then IOHK came along and we started meeting with them and talking with them, and they were very interested in establishing something at the University of Wyoming. And partially because of the legal climate here and the regulatory climate with it that's been created by the legislature, so that it's a good place. So IHK actually reincorporated as a Wyoming company. So they're, IO Global is incorporated in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is the new version of the company. And I think Charles felt like he wanted to, first of all, he's on the Front Range in Colorado, which is, an hour and a half drive away. He wanted to have some research lab close to him. He wanted to also, though, do something for Wyoming for creating this wonderful regulatory environment. And so we started talking about the lab and what we might do. And so with the funds that the legislature set out there, Charles was able to give $500,000 in aid worth of ADA, and that matched $500,000 of legislative funds, and together with that, the legislation said that the university had to contribute some support to the project. So we have essentially $1.3 million to start our lab. And that's a good bit of money, and we have 3 faculty. There's me, co-director is Mike Borofchek, who's more on the hardware side. I'm more on the software and programming languages side. And then we have a professor of practice who is kind of a system builder of all kinds, hardware and software. And then we currently have 4 graduate students.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about about your project and what you are trying to achieve. I understand there is a lot of work that you are doing on cryptography and verification. Is that right?
So first, I would like to say that one of the things that's so attractive about that partnership with IOHK is that they have shown through their collaboration with the University of Edinburgh, the University of Athens, and is it Tokyo Tech, and other projects at Oxford, at the University of Connecticut, University of Illinois, Champaign and Urbana. I botched that, but well, anyway, so they have a long history of university partnerships doing research and developing things. And so it's kind of, their systems are guided by sort of leaders in computer science deciding how to do things. And it's a new way to say, look, these are serious, difficult problems we're trying to solve. Let's get the best computer science minds in the world working on them. And so that's an environment where that was good for the partnership.
Yeah.
And then they have also taken on that theorem proving or proving properties about the systems that you design is kind of like the highest level of security and confidence that you can get in the correctness of a system. So that is a very exciting thing. And that's my own background is in theorem proving and, you know, applying theorem proving to software and hardware systems. And that's also Mike's Brovchek's background is in doing formal verification, the technology, the overall technology is called, formally verifying the correctness of your systems, which is crucial for cryptographic protocol work or distributed systems work, Byzantine agreement, programming languages. If you write a new programming language like they've implemented for the Cardano blockchain, which is Plutus is the base language, and then on top working on Marlowe, those are programming languages have been, their designs have been proved, properties about the programming languages have been formally proved to verify that the language behaves as you expect it to.
But James, obviously the verification process, as you mentioned before, includes both hardware and software. Can you maybe explain these two elements, how they interact between each other and the relationship?
Well, I mean, in terms of the verification work can, you know, is applicable to both areas. It's applicable to any kind of design that you want, that you understand properties that you want to prove. So for example, we're working on this chip that will secure provenance of let's say, you know, some kind of commercial good that's sold in the world. So typically, like perhaps luxury goods are a perfect example, like a very expensive handbag.
Yeah, Chanel handbag for
okay.
like $6,000.
Okay, yeah, right. So, you know, those bags are extremely expensive, and yet there's huge counterfeiting going on of, you know, you grab a Chanel bag, you take it apart, you pay some factory to build you copies for, you know, 1/10 of the cost of what Chanel is putting into it, and then you put them out on the market, and how's the consumer supposed to know? So if you embed a chip in there that cannot be copied, and that's a difficult problem. How do you create a chip that's kind of cannot be duplicated? And then that chip is identified uniquely on the blockchain with the records for the serial number and all the information about that handbag, for example.
I mean, that's a really big problem, particularly now with you know, the growing online marketplace are basically growing a lot, and there are a lot of resellers. They are actually going online with fakes, and you know, having the ability to actually verify, authenticate goods is it will be really game changing.
Well, I mean, I understand. I know I haven't really looked into it that much, but there's a huge secondary market for basketball shoes or
Yeah.
running shoes. It's just, and the prices are astronomical that people are willing to pay for an early version of a particular shoe.
Or maybe even because it was worn by a celebrity
Yeah.
or a star. So a pair of sunglasses, for example.
Yeah. So the provenance of the good can also can also determine the long-term price. And that's something that with the chip would be able to do. The chip would be able to record the transaction from one individual to another. So currently, RFID chips, which is, radio frequency identification chips, are used in a lot of the supply chain issues. But basically, at the point when it leaves the retail seller, either the chip may sometimes be removed or just it doesn't have anything. Its useful life is over. Its useful life was tracking the good through the supply chain from the manufacturer to the retail seller. The thing that we're designing is intended to be able to record the transaction should the purchaser want it, that would say, okay, the store sold this on such and such a date to so-and-so, and then that can be recorded. Then if that person sells it to someone else, then that transaction can be recorded. So we can track the provenance of the goal is to track the provenance of an object beyond the retail sales outlet and to be able to keep track of the good. Now, there are privacy issues also there. And so, we're working on looking at that, but that will be actually at a second stage where we're going to look at the privacy issues. Right now, what we're working on is a chip that can be communicated with near field communications, with a radio communication, let's say from your phone, that you could read it and then you could determine what this good was and find out the history of the good. Okay. And the main property of the chip, though, is that you can't cut one out of a bag and study the chip and then go and manufacture 10,000 of them and create 10,000 fakes. The thing is that chip is unique and that there really is no way to copy it. And the fact that there's no way to copy it has to come from cryptographic protocols. And so there has to be a certain amount of computation and design that goes into the chip. And that's the theorem we'd like to prove actually about our design in the end, is this chip cannot be copied.
Okay, where are you what's your timeline in delivering a pilot?
Well, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot because researchers like to just kind of like put off any actual details about that. I don't know. I expect that we'll have a prototype in a year, but we're a relatively small group working on a difficult problem. But I think we've got 2 people working right now on building out kind of an environment in which we can test designs. So they're building out kind of a system like this. You've got kind of 3 parts. You've got the chip, which is in the luxury good. You've got some kind of reader, and we're using phones right now. Mobile devices have radio small near field radio communication available. It's very close. You have to hold the phone close to the device, but the phone can read it, and then the blockchain. So the 3 components of the system are the chip, the reader, and then what gets stored on the blockchain. And we're setting up a software environment right now for doing that and testing designs of the chip. And we have an initial design of what the behavior is. And then, well, maybe that's too optimistic. we know what features it has to have. And at this point, we believe we know what cryptographic features it has to have. So the next stage is going to be basically proving that the chip is unique.
Yeah.
And so if you want to counterfeit a good or counterfeit one, well, the only way to do it is to have that actual chip. So, I mean, you could take a $5,000 handbag and cut it apart and get the chip out and embed it in a fake copy of the handbag. But,
but it will be much more difficult, the life of a counterfeit like that, basically.
Yeah, that would seem to be defeating the purpose of having the original handbag in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I would like to focus on for a second is about education. So one of the problems that I think is quite big in different industries, they are not technology, for example, fashion, they don't really understand how technologies such as blockchain, they operate, and they can really help them to maximize their sales, their returns, and also enhance their credibility, because counterfeiting is creating big problem on brand credibility. What will be your plan, or how do you think your lab and your partnership with IOHK should deal with this problem about education?
Well, at the University of Wyoming, we're setting up a center of excellence in blockchain, which covers the kind of the entire, it's going to be run from the College of Business, but it's an interdisciplinary program. And the idea is to create a minor or a certificate program where students in any discipline could take it and then add it on to their degree program. And then they would be able to go out into whatever field they're going into, including fashion, right? So who would think that fashion people need to know about blockchain?
They do now.
But it's going to turn out to be an important technology for them in virtually every field. I mean, I think, within medicine, blockchain is going to be a crucial technology. So it's good for people who are training as in the medical field, pharmacy field, engineers, essentially every field that blockchains are being used to kind of record, to replace like copyright or information. So if I make a painting, I could take a photograph of it. And I think Kodak has a blockchain. You can put the photograph of your artwork up on there, or of your photographs. And if you ever are leafing through a magazine and see one of your own photographs, you could say, this is mine, and go back and look at the blockchain. So blockchain is going to have an effect. It's certainly agricultural industry, legal,
food industry,
every discipline essentially on the campus of the University of Wyoming, I think, is going to eventually have blockchain as part of the mechanism that enables their discipline to thrive. And so our idea for education is to create a 3 or 4, maybe 2 to 4 courses that students could add on to their existing degree program as a minor, and that afterwards they'd be able to go out into the workplace and identify applications where blockchain might be useful. I mean, many companies right now, they know that blockchain is going to be important, but they have no idea how it's important for them. And so it's a unique thing if we can train students at the University of Wyoming that come out who understand applications, and can identify uses where blockchain can be used in more traditional, company processes or systems. So that's our goal. Now, but there are currently, similar programs at the University of Arkansas, which is funded by Walmart, who uses blockchain for their supply chain. They have a center of excellence similar to the one that we're forming with. We're partnering with them, actually. There are there's more, the online educational programs that I know about are more oriented towards the technology, but maybe I just haven't looked at the online, that there might be on Coursera or EDUX programs for people who want to learn about blockchain applications in industry. But we're hoping to address it here for University of Wyoming students and to make those courses available online for other students who might want to do it. But it's happening. It's starting to happen all over.
And I think working closely with the industries as well, I think it will be a key element, because sometimes, okay, you can go and take a course online, but you don't know the credibility of the institution behind. So that is important to understand also the quality of education that you are getting, and also, I guess, for this industry, also to get the support they might eventually need at the beginning while they are implementing blockchain into their system.
Yeah, it's an amazing technology, and I think it's going to prove to be crucial to society as we move forward. It's a secure, distributed ledger. I started describing it early on in this, being involved in the Wyoming Blockchain Coalition and going out and giving talks, as the first significant advance in accounting since the Renaissance, when double entry bookkeeping was discovered. So, I mean, I describe it that way to accountants, and they say, well, yeah, sort of. It's a significant technological advance, and accounting is not just accounting about money, but it's accounting for about all kinds of things, like property,
exactly,
and ownership of property, ownership of all these kinds of things. You need to account.
And I think the element of transparency and efficiency that brings to, I think, is really powerful, because it allows to streamline the process much more, that in order to enhance progress. That's crucial.
The other thing, let me just say quickly about IOHK, is that their model is a proof of, their blockchain is proof of stake. So you often hear about, like, Bitcoin, and it just keeps growing. Like, it uses enough electricity to power the country of Luxembourg is used every year. And then the next year you hear, enough electricity to power, I don't know, it just keeps growing. The amount of electricity used to power all the computers that are supporting the Bitcoin environment just keeps growing. And so in the face of global warming, that's a real problem.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just depend on, proof of work protocols for blockchain. And, the IOHK protocol is one that others are trying to move towards, but I think is first out of the box to really have been proven, to have properties proven about it, and to be running, and it doesn't use, you'll be able to run the entire blockchain on a very, very small amount of computational power.
And I think that's a very important point, because we are experiencing some crazy signals from the nature. The weather, even this summer, has been like never. It's been too hot everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's going to be it is a big problem, the climate change.
From an environmental point of view, I think, for me personally anyway, I can say, like, I'm very proud to be affiliated with IOHK.
And I think on that note, I want to remind, I was talking to Charles about sustainability, and I think that came out, how Cardano is working on sustainability and sustainable project. That sustainability is a big word, is the ability to sustain the project, and this energy part is very important now. So, that's something worth to mention as well. James, thank you very much, and I hope to have you back on the show when we can talk a little bit more about your progress at the lab.
Great.
Okay.
I'd love to do it.
Thank you.
All right. Great to see you.
So this is everything from the Financial Fox today. I hope that you enjoy our show, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with our news and our latest interviews as well. I will see you next time.